Hey guys, this is FPL Tips and welcome back to another not sitting on the fence video. If you're new to the channel, we've started doing this thread that we had on Instagram as a video. In this video, we'll be looking at major questions that are across Game Week 2 and answer them under 15 minutes. This is essentially what you want from your FPL content, exactly concise. And we straight jump into the point without wasting any time. If you like the video at any given point of time, please hit the like button. But for now, let's come up with the first question. And it is the big question. I know that he's dropped in price, but what should we do with Quansah? I agree he's dropped in price. Now it's 4.4, and for a lot of people, it wouldn't make sense to even really have an advice on that. But personally, I feel that at this point, if he's 4.4 in your team, if you have him, hold him. That doesn't make sense unless, like, most likely just doesn't make sense because now he's dropped in price. If you don't have money in the bank, you probably can't even buy an alternative to him. If he's your third defender and if you have money in the bank, sell him ASAP. I think even with the point 4, you can still go for a 4.5 million defender. I think it's fine. Because you need a playing defender, you probably should make the move. And what is my opinion on whether he starts or not? I personally think that given the manager slot is, given the fact that he came out and told that the reason for his substitution was not an injury or anything, but was purely tactical. He was not good. He criticized him that much. I think given the preseason, he might give him another chance. If not, he will make sure he mentions that in the press conference that there is enough time that Quansah will need. There is much more that he needs to do to get into the first team. If he says something on that lines, I think he'll not be starting. And watch out for the press conference. I think we'll have a clear indication of what Quansah will or what will happen to Quansah after the press conference. So I think for now, if you have him, he's your fourth defender. Hold, don't do much about it. If he's your third defender, if you have any money in the bank, sell him. If you have no money in the bank, I think just take the chance and play him big and hope that he starts. For people who have him and is for people who have him and he's your fourth defender, I think don't start him. Brentford isn't the easiest fixture. I think it will be a clean sheet for Liverpool, but you don't want to take chances. So I wouldn't recommend starting him if your third defender is absolutely having a bad game week, like it's a Quansah versus Arsenal, then maybe consider that. Next question we have is another big question. Triple captain Haaland. Another question alongside this that we had a lot was, should I take a -4 for Haaland? So I'll address the second part first. I don't think you should take a -4, especially if you have a Salah or you are in the Salah camp. And I say that because it doesn't make sense after you commit to do a cause, build your structure and team according to one big player and premier player and stuck to that. He's delivered. And there is no reason when you look at this map also, you realize that Liverpool are also close to 3 goals expected, and Salah was really very good in that game. So he could be involved in this game too. There is no reason you want to rip apart your team in game week 2, especially with so less data. You're unsure about other aspects of your team as well. I don't think it does make sense. I know Haaland is going to be a popular property. He's prime captaincy for this game week, and he's probably the best captain. But again, you have to back what you chose. There was a reason you chose Salah or Haaland, and you should stick to that. Now, should you triple captain Haaland? As per what Ben Crenner says, who's probably the GOAT in these terms of planning and understanding double game weeks, we are expecting 2 or 3 double game weeks in this season due to the new FA Cup rule. So there will not be a lot of game weeks. I think there are 2 double game weeks, and you already have the free hit chip, the bench boost chip, and even the mystery chip. So there isn't enough opportunity for you to use your triple captain, and that is why there is a case to use triple captain this game week. Personally, historically, Haaland has been really good in the start of the season, and it makes total sense to probably triple captain him. Although I would advise you not to do that, even if he scores a hat trick, not to do that because there is a lot of factors that come through this. One, there is very less information of who will start for City and how they will line up and how would they approach this game. So there could be a lot of other things that influence his goal potential. For example, Doku, he doesn't pass him the ball enough, and that is a huge factor of Haaland really doing well or not. So that's something that could come up this game. Ipswich away from home have been really box to box defending sort of team, even last season in the championship, and now this season they will do it more often against the big teams. So it's going to be a KG game for City, even though it's at home. I know they'll score 3 goals, maybe more, but there could be a chance that it becomes very KG. So watch out for that. And overall, I think the information that we'll gain by the end of the season is much more important. If at all we have to captain, triple captain someone in single game, I think at the end of the season, where teams are just rubbish or teams are scoring 5 goals and 6 goals for fun, that is probably the moment when you want to triple captain someone, especially in a single game. So I would say don't triple captain Haaland this game, but definitely captain him if you have him. Next up, we have a question on Barco as well. Now, he is rumored to go out of the Brighton team on loan as well. If you have Barco, just hold him. I don't think he's a sell. At this price point, there is no other player which is starting for now. We expected Johnson from Ipswich to start, but again, there is no start given to him. He came on as a sub due to an injury to a current player of the 11. I don't think there is any alternative to Barco. There is no point spending the point 0.5 upgrading him. If he's your fourth or fifth defender, just keep him as there. He might drop in price because he's the fifth most owned defender in the game as of now. But even if that happens, I think just take the point one loss. I don't think that it's worth spending a transfer on Barco and selling him out. Next up, we have three players that we probably want to discuss. So it's Poro, Gordon, and Kunku. All because of different cases, but we'll take them individually. First up is Poro. Why I want to discuss him and mention him here because he came off an injury which looked like an ankle injury and he could be out for a couple of weeks. What I would recommend you guys is that watch Ange Postecoglou's press conference. If you want to follow those press conference, you can follow FPL tips on Instagram. We post out every stories in terms of press conference and later on news on injuries and other stuff as well. So if and Ange is generally a very good manager in these terms, he will come out and say, okay, this player is probably injured and he will not start. If he says something on that lines, I think you probably then look at selling Poro because it looked like a bad injury. It could be long term. There is other options in terms of Munoz, which is a downgrade. You can look at Dallo. United look good defensively, or an upgrade to a Guardiola or Saliba if you have funds. So that is an option out of Poro. But I would really recommend you waiting till the press conference, and I think the press conference will be very decisive about it. Next up is Gordon. A lot of people considering Gordon out because he performed decent, and that could be the case in the second game. But I think the overall Newcastle performance was really low because of the game state. They considered a red card and then they shut shop. They didn't want to attack. They wanted to defend more. I think that's the reason that they did not perform really well. Given his price point, I know there are much more options available at this point. A lot of people considering jumping here and there, but I think given the fixtures for Newcastle, at least the next two, which is Tottenham and Bournemouth, I think you should hold, see how he plays, and then probably decide. I think gather more information. Third is Nkunku. A lot of people were very disappointed of him starting on the left and then coming out at the 57th minute, which nobody really expected. So less minutes. It could be how Chelsea want to rotate and wanted to play the City game. I think going ahead, I don't see Enzo starting as a number 10 for Chelsea. He will probably shift back to a double pivot, and Nkunku will be put back into the number 10 position, especially this game against Wolves and the next one against Crystal Palace. So I think if you have Nkunku, probably just wait out, see the minutes and the position he gets. He was really in some good positions in the last game against City too. I think that will largely increase when he plays as number 10. So I think it's a firm hold for Nkunku, Gordon, and Poro if you have them. Next up, and the next question is about Anderson. Now he is sort of a problem right now because he was a Crystal Palace defense which looked good at 4.5 million. A lot of people downgraded Munoz to an Anderson to fit in other people, and that was the only route to a Crystal Palace defense for the team. But now he's moving to Fulham. It's pretty much confirmed. There's a medical and everything is there, and he will move and he will become a Fulham player. Now, what should you do in this sort of situation? A lot of people have Anderson, and we need to look at Fulham's fixtures and look at is it worth spending one transfer to get away from him. For now, the Fulham fixtures look like Leicester, Ipswich, West Ham, Newcastle, Nottingham. In the next five, there are three fixtures which look potential clean sheet, and Anderson is not that bad. So I think this game week could be a problem if you own Anderson because he's sort of in middle of a transfer. He's neither a Fulham player, and now that Crystal Palace know that he's not going to start, they might not play him. So this game week, I think you start him. If he starts, well and good. If he doesn't, he'll just sit on the bench. I don't think he'll come on as a sub. So if you have him, you probably start him and keep plans for next game week handy. I wouldn't really expect much from Anderson this game week, but keep a plan or a move probably in mind and handy that later on after the Ipswich game you want to move off and look at other options. There is a lot of options. If Reece James is out, there's Gusto at that price point. There's Mazurui at from United at that price point. If I'm not jeopardizing his name, there's other options coming in from again. You can go back to a Crystal Palace defender as well. There is the Newcastle defense that would open up. Livermento could probably be prolonging as a player. So lot of options. Robinson from the same team, Fulham. Although I wouldn't really keep a Fulham defender for a long period, long term as a plan. So if you have Anderson this game week, just hold him off. Next game week, probably start planning to remove him or switch him off for someone. That's probably the answer to this question. A lot of people have this dilemma right now. And probably the last part of this short video is about standout options from game week 1. Something which basically is about how I observe players and which players really stood out for me. When you look at the data, I think there are about 7 players. I think Bruno Fernandes and Mitoma are very game state players because their fixtures were such. In the Mitoma fixture, there was a red card too. Bruno was against Fulham, and that is why his numbers are like that and inflated. And he played more of a number 9 or a half number 9. He would not do that regularly. So those two players are probably an outliers in my opinion. But the other players that I really want to point out is one, Trent Alexander-Arnold. He was phenomenal in game week 4 and 5. I think everyone should start aiming to get in either Salah, at least Trent. So start planning towards that. The second player I think is Havertz. A lot of people really underrating that option. He is zero point 0.5 away from Isaac to an Havertz move, and he looked really good, and he was really selfish as a player as well. Which is something that we use as a term in FPL, that if player is really wanting to score a goal and is selfish about his goals and assists, that really helps us as an FPL manager. I think Havertz was showing that skill there, and he looked phenomenal in that game against Wolves. So I think if you see that continue happening, you could probably keep him in your watch list like we have, and then consider buying him later on. Madison looked really good. He was more central and he was more pivotal to the attack and creation. Obviously, he generally is, but I think he was more important and essential than Son. Son looked really wide. Same with Brennan Johnson. So it was Madison who was more closer to the goal that what I perceived and considered thought of in that game. I think that will probably be the trend with Solanke coming into that team. And lastly, I want to talk about Benetton Diaz. At 5.5 million, he looked absolutely amazing. He was playing almost close to the striker with Armstrong, and his numbers really look good and appealing. I think going ahead, if you don't like the prospects of ESR or Minte, who's injured, or probably want to upgrade Rogers for a zero point 0.5, I think Benetton Diaz, given the fixtures, is a really good option, and you should keep him in your watch list, especially at the time of wildcard or even in the coming game weeks as a transfer. But that's about it. Just wanted to add captaincy as well. If you have Haaland, there's hands down no doubt you should go Haaland captaincy. And if you don't have Haaland, I think you have played your bet on Salah, then put your money down there, double it down. Captain him against Brentford. He's got good odds. It's about 3 goals odd that he will score, and Liverpool will score about 3 goals. I think you should back that. And with that, I think if you don't have Haaland, just probably sit behind the sofa this game because it's going to be a tough watch. Ipswich at home for Haaland is going to be a prime fixture. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video so far. If you watched it so far, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the bell icon so that when we come back with such videos, we're coming out with the deadline stream and the press conference video as well ahead in the week. So you'll be notified for that. I hope you enjoyed this content. Cheers and see you in the next one.